The massive Imperial warship Sovereign's Pride drifted through space like a silver blade, cutting through the darkness. Its hull gleamed with the polished perfection that marked all vessels of the Zilithian Galactic Empire. Inside the command center, Commodore Vexitar studied the holographic display showing a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. "Such a primitive world," he muttered, his forearms crossed behind his back in the traditional pose of imperial contemplation. His silver skin caught the light from the display as he turned to his second-in-command. "Navigation Officer Krellin, confirm our position." "We are holding position at the edge of what the locals call the Sol System, Commodore," Krellin replied, his voice carrying the clipped precision of Imperial military training. "Long-range scans show the third planet supports approximately 8 billion life forms of the species designated human." Vexitar nodded slowly. In his 300 years of service to the Empire, he had overseen the peaceful integration of 47 different species into Imperial society. The process was always the same. Approach, demonstrate superior technology, offer protection in exchange for loyalty, and welcome the new citizens into the galaxy's greatest civilization. The humans would be no different. "What does our intelligence report say about their military capabilities?" Vexitar asked, though he already knew the answer. The preliminary scouts had been thorough. "Primitive chemical propulsion systems, Commodore. Their fastest vessels require months to travel between worlds in their own system. They use kinetic weapons and basic energy projection. No shield technology detected. No faster-than-light communication or travel capabilities." "Standard integration protocols, then," Vexitar decided. "Prepare the diplomatic message. Standard terms, submit to Imperial protection or face military demonstration." Far below on Earth, Admiral Chen Wei stood in the Strategic Defense Command, center buried deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. The massive screens around her showed tracking data from every telescope, satellite, and sensor array humanity possessed. The alien ship hung in space like a sword over their heads. "How long have they been there?" Chen asked her aide, Colonel Morrison. 18 hours, Admiral. They appeared at the edge of our solar system and have maintained position since." Chen studied the readings. The ship was huge, easily 10 times larger than humanity's biggest space station. Its energy signature was unlike anything in their databases. Most disturbing of all, it had appeared without any warning, suggesting technology far beyond human understanding. "Any attempts at communication?" she asked. "None so far. But Admiral—" Morrison hesitated. "The ship's position is perfect for monitoring all our satellite networks. They're watching us." In another part of the facility, Dr. Sarah Martinez worked frantically at her computer terminal. As Earth's leading expert in xenobiology and communication theory, she had been pulled from her university position the moment the alien ship appeared. Now she faced the most important translation challenge in human history. "The signal is coming through on multiple frequencies," she reported to the assembled military leaders via video link. "It's definitely artificial, definitely directed at us. The mathematical structures suggest high intelligence." "Can you decode it?" Chen asked from the main screen. "I'm trying, but—" Sarah paused, studying the patterns flowing across her monitor. "This is unlike anything we've theorized about alien communication. It's too structured to be random, but too complex to be simple mathematics." Back on the Sovereign's Pride, communication. Specialist Thuven worked at his station, carefully crafting the standard diplomatic message. The Empire had refined this process over thousands of years. The message was designed to be clear, respectful, but firm in its authority. "Commodore, the transmission is ready," Thuven announced. "Send it," Vexitar ordered. "And begin the standard waiting period. Most species need time to process what they're being offered." The message traveled at light speed toward Earth, carrying words that had been spoken to dozens of civilizations. "Greetings from the Zilithian Galactic Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our peaceful confederation of planets. Submit to Imperial authority within 72 of your local hours, and your species will be granted full citizenship rights, protection, and access to galactic civilization. Refuse, and standard military protocols will be implemented to ensure compliance. This is not a threat, but a standard procedure. Choose wisely. Dr. Martinez was the first to crack the communication code. The breakthrough came when she realized the aliens were using mathematical constants as a universal language base. Prime numbers, geometric ratios, and physical constants created a framework that allowed basic concepts to be translated. As the meaning of the alien message became clear, a cold silence fell over the command center. "They want us to surrender," Chen said quietly. "Complete submission within 3 days." "What happens if we refuse?" Morrison asked. Martinez checked her translation again. "They implement standard military protocols. I think they're going to attack us if we don't give up." President Rebecca Hayes joined the video conference from Washington. Her face was pale but determined. "Admiral Chen, what are our options?" "Limited, Madam President. We have no weapons that could reach their ship. Our fastest missiles would take days to get there, assuming they could even penetrate whatever defenses they have. And if we surrender? Unknown. The message talks about citizenship rights and protection, but we'd essentially become part of their empire." The president was quiet for a long moment. Around the world, similar conversations were happening in every major capital. The United Nations had called an emergency session. Military leaders on every continent were calculating odds and preparing for the worst. On the Imperial ship, Vextar waited with the patience of centuries. This was always the most delicate part of integration. Some species panicked. Others tried futile attacks. The wise ones asked questions and negotiated terms, but all of them eventually made the logical choice. "Commodore," scanner operator Plexon called from his station. "I'm detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface." Vextar approached the scanner station. The display showed Earth in real time, with various energy signatures marked across its surface. "Explain." "Massive increases in electromagnetic communications, power grid fluctuations in major population centers, and, sir, I'm detecting what appears to be military mobilization." "Military mobilization?" Vextar was puzzled. "Are they preparing to attack us?" "Unknown, Commodore, but energy signatures suggest they're activating defensive systems worldwide. This was unusual. Most primitive species either cowered in fear or sent desperate diplomatic messages. Active military preparation suggested either courage or foolishness." Vextar suspected the latter. Back on Earth, the response was taking shape. Every nuclear power had quietly moved to high alert. Missile submarines had taken positions in deep ocean. Strategic bomber crews sat in their aircraft, engines running. Satellite networks had been hardened against possible electromagnetic attacks. But humanity was also doing something the Empire had never encountered before. In bunkers and command centers around the world, military leaders were sharing every piece of intelligence they had about warfare, weapons, and tactics. Ancient enemies were suddenly allies. Every technological advancement, every military secret, every strategic doctrine was being pooled into a common database. Dr. Martinez worked around the clock to prepare humanity's response message. She had chosen her words carefully, running them through multiple translation algorithms to ensure clarity. The message that finally beamed toward the Imperial ship was simple. "We decline your offer. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences." When Vextar received the human response, he stared at the translation in disbelief. In 3 centuries of military service, he had never encountered such a blunt refusal from a primitive species. "Are we certain this translation is correct?" he asked. "Confirmed. Commodore, they are refusing integration and demanding we leave." Vextar felt a mixture of disappointment and professional interest. The humans were either remarkably brave or remarkably stupid. Either way, they had chosen their path. "Very well," he said, formally. "Implement standard military demonstration protocol. Target their lunar installations. Something visible but not inhabited. Once they see our capabilities, they'll reconsider." As the Imperial ship began powering its weapon systems, neither side understood what they had set in motion. The Empire expected a brief demonstration followed by quick surrender. Humanity expected an invasion that would require every weapon and tactic they possessed. Both were wrong. What was about to begin would change the galaxy forever. The Imperial weapons officer Zalek prepared the targeting system with practiced ease. The demonstration would be clean, precise, and effective. A single energy beam would destroy the small research facility on Earth's moon, showing the humans exactly what they faced. "Commodore weapon systems are ready," Zalek reported. "The lunar target is a simple scientific outpost, no life signs detected." Vextar nodded approvingly. "Fire when ready. Make it visible from their planet. They need to see what Imperial technology can accomplish." The beam lanced out across space, a brilliant purple line that struck the lunar research station. The small collection of buildings and equipment vanished instantly, leaving only a glowing crater on the moon's surface that could be seen from Earth with basic telescopes. "Target destroyed, Commodore. Clean hit, no collateral damage." "Excellent. Now we wait for their surrender request." Vextar settled back in his command chair. Usually, primitive species capitulated within hours of such a demonstration, but on Earth, the response was not what he expected. Admiral Chen Wei watched the destruction of Luna Base through the main display screen. 12 scientists and engineers had been evacuated just hours before, but seeing the facility destroyed sent a cold rage through her bones. "They just declared war on us," she said quietly. President Hayes appeared on the communication screen, her face grim. "Admiral, I'm authorizing Protocol 7. Chen felt her heart skip. Protocol 7 meant total war mobilization. Every resource, every weapon, every person on Earth would be directed toward a single goal, destroying the enemy completely. "Madam President, are you certain?" "Protocol 7 has never been implemented. The consequences. Admiral, they just attacked us on our own moon. This isn't a negotiation anymore. This is survival." Around the world, secret orders began flowing to military commanders. Nuclear submarines received new target packages. Strategic missile forces began final preparation sequences. Most importantly, the deep black projects that officially didn't exist started coming online. Dr. Martinez was called to an emergency meeting in the deepest levels of the command center. She had never been this far underground before. The men and women around the conference table wore uniforms she didn't recognize and carried security badges with classifications she had never heard of. "Doctor," a general whose name badge was covered said, "we need you to send another message to the aliens." "What kind of message?" "Tell them they made a mistake. Tell them about total war." Martinez looked confused. "I don't understand. What should I tell them about total war?" An older woman at the end of the table spoke up. Her hair was white, her eyes hard with decades of military experience. "Tell them that humans have been fighting total wars against each other for thousands of years. Tell them we know how to fight until nothing is left on either side. Tell them they can leave now, or we will show them what happens when humans fight for survival. But we can't actually fight their technology." "Doctor," the general interrupted, "just send the message. Let us worry about the fighting." On the Imperial ship, the human response created confusion in the command staff. The translation system struggled with concepts they had never encountered. Commodore, communication specialist Thuven, said hesitantly, "The human response is unusual." "Explain." "They're using military terminology that doesn't translate properly. They speak of total war and fighting for survival and acceptable losses. Our databases have no reference points for these concepts." Vextar studied the message. Transcript. The humans claimed they had fought wars that destroyed entire civilizations, but this made no sense. How could a species survive wars that destroyed civilizations? How could they fight until nothing is left and still exist? Are they threatening to destroy their own planet? He asked. Unknown, Commodore. The translation suggests they would rather die fighting than surrender, but this contradicts basic survival instincts. Send a clarification request. Ask them to explain their terms. The human response came back within hours. We don't fight wars to win territory or gain advantage. We fight wars to completely destroy our enemies. We have done this to ourselves repeatedly throughout our history. We are offering you the chance to leave peacefully. If you stay, we will demonstrate why we are the only species that has survived. Thousands of years of total warfare against ourselves. Vextar stared at the message for a long time. Either the humans were insane, or they possessed capabilities the Imperial scouts had completely missed. Both possibilities were disturbing. Meanwhile, across Earth's surface, humanity was mobilizing in ways the Empire couldn't detect. In hidden bunkers, weapons that had been theoretical for decades were being assembled. Scientists who had spent careers developing defensive technologies were now turning their knowledge toward destruction. The most secret project was taking place in a facility that didn't appear on any map. Dr. James Harrison had spent 20 years developing fusion propulsion systems for deep space exploration. Now he was weaponizing them. How many can we build? Admiral Chen asked during a secure video call. Depends on how much time we have, Harrison replied. Each unit is basically a small star in a magnetic bottle. If we detonate them in sequence, what kind of damage are we talking about? Admiral, each device would sterilize everything within 1,000 kilometers. If we use them all at once. Harrison paused, running calculations. We could crack a planet's crust. Chen was quiet for a moment. How long do you need? 72 hours. Maybe less if we skip safety protocols. Skip them. We're past safety protocols now. On the Imperial ship, scanner operator Plexon was beginning to worry. The energy readings from Earth were unlike anything in his experience. Massive power transfers were happening across the planet. Industrial facilities were switching to unknown production patterns. Most disturbing, he was detecting energy signatures that registered as weapons-grade fusion reactions. Commodore, he reported. The humans appear to be constructing something. Multiple somethings. The energy requirements are enormous. What kind of weapons could they be building? Unknown, sir, but the power levels suggest they're not small devices. Vextar decided to speed up the timeline. Send another demonstration. Target one of their orbital facilities. Something larger this time. The Imperial beam struck the International Space Station, vaporizing humanity's greatest achievement in space exploration. The debris created a brilliant meteor shower visible from half the planet, but instead of surrender, the human response was immediate and shocking. Every major city on Earth went dark for exactly 60 seconds. Then the lights came back on, but now they pulsed in a synchronized pattern visible from space. The message was clear even without translation. We are united. We are ready. We are not afraid. Dr. Martinez sent one final message to the Imperial ship. You have attacked us twice. We consider this an act of war. You have exactly 24 hours to leave our system. After that, we will demonstrate human warfare. We promise you have never seen anything like it. Vextar called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. The situation was spiraling beyond his experience. Opinions? He asked his officers. Sir, Tactical Officer Raylar spoke first. They're bluffing. No primitive species could threaten an Imperial warship. But their energy readings suggest otherwise, Scanner Operator Plexon argued. Whatever they're building, it requires fusion-level power sources. Maybe they're building bombs, Navigation Officer Krellin suggested. Primitive nuclear weapons. Then we should withdraw to safe distance and bombard their planet from range, Raylar recommended. Vextar considered this. Standard protocol would be orbital bombardment until the primitives surrendered. But something about the human responses bothered him. Their confidence seemed genuine, not the desperate bluster of a defeated species. "We'll maintain position," he decided, "but prepare for combat operations. If they want to fight, we'll give them a brief demonstration of Imperial military power." On Earth, the countdown had begun. In facilities across the planet, devices that had never been tested were being loaded onto rockets that had been designed in secret. Submarine crews received orders they had trained for but never expected to execute. Pilots climbed into aircraft, carrying weapons that officially didn't exist. Admiral Chen stood in the command center, watching displays that showed humanity's response taking shape. Every nation on Earth had contributed something to the effort. Resources that had been hoarded for decades were being committed to a single massive strike. "Admiral," Colonel Morrison approached with a secure tablet. "Final confirmation from all strike teams. We're ready." Chen looked at the numbers one more time. The plan was simple, desperate, and completely insane. If it worked, they might survive as a species. If it failed, Earth would be a dead planet within hours. But if they did, nothing. They would become slaves to an alien empire. "Send the activation codes," she ordered. Above Earth's atmosphere, the Imperial ship Sovereign's Pride began powering up its main weapons array, preparing to teach the humans a final lesson about the futility of resisting Imperial authority. Neither side realized they were about to redefine the meaning of warfare in the galaxy. The first human strike came from Mars. Commodore Vexitar was studying tactical displays when alarms began screaming throughout the Sovereign's Pride. Scanner operator Plexen's 4 hands flew across his controls as energy readings spiked beyond his instrument's ability to measure. "Commodore, massive energy surge from the 4th planet!" The main display screen showed Mars, humanity's small research colony. But now the planet was glowing with an unnatural light. Fusion fires burned across its surface in geometric patterns that could only be artificial. "What are they doing?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir, but..." The answer came as Mars exploded, not the entire planet, but a carefully calculated section of the crust. Massive chunks of rock and metal erupted into space, each piece moving with the velocity of a directed weapon. The debris field spread outward like a deadly flower, each fragment following a trajectory that had been calculated months in advance. Evasive. "Action!" Vextar shouted, but it was too late. The first impacts hit the Sovereign's Pride like bullets from a god's rifle. The Imperial ship's shields flared and died under impacts that registered as small nuclear explosions. Secondary debris tore through the hull, venting atmosphere and crew into space. "Damage report. Hull breach is on decks 7 through 15. Shield generators offline. We're losing power to..." Another wave of debris struck the ship. The Sovereign's Pride shuddered and began to list as its gravity generators failed. But the real horror was yet to come. From Earth's direction, sensor arrays detected 12 objects moving at incredible speed. The humans had launched something during the chaos of Mars's destruction, and now those objects were approaching at velocities that should have been impossible for their primitive technology. "What are those contacts?" Vexitar asked, gripping his command chair as another piece of Martian debris struck the ship. "Unknown, Commodore. They're small but moving at 7% of light speed. That's impossible. Their technology can't..." The eye. First human kinetic weapon struck an Imperial escort ship. The destroyer simply vanished, converted to plasma by the impact. The remaining 11 projectiles adjusted course with small thruster burns, targeting the surviving Imperial vessels. Within minutes, Vextar's entire task force was destroyed except for his own crippled flagship. "Sir," Communications Specialist Thuven called from his station, "we're receiving a transmission from the human planet." "Put it through." Admiral Chen Wei's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Vextar could see the underground command center bustling with activity. Her expression was cold, professional, and utterly without mercy. "Commodore Vextar," she began. "You came to our system expecting us to fight like civilized beings. You expected rules, negotiations, and honorable surrender. You were wrong." "Admiral," Vextar interrupted, "your attack was unexpected. But surely we can—" "You don't understand," Chen continued as if he hadn't spoken. "We didn't attack you. We annihilated your fleet. There's a difference. An attack is designed to disable or defeat. Annihilation is designed to erase every trace of the enemy's existence." The display behind Chen changed, showing tactical readouts that made Vexitar's blood freeze. Earth hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared for extinction-level combat. The debris field from Mars was only the beginning. "You see, Commodore? Humans have been fighting wars of annihilation for our entire recorded history. We've developed weapons capable of ending all life on our planet multiple times over. We've created strategies based on the assumption that acceptable casualties include our entire civilization." Chen gestured to someone off-screen, and new images appeared. Nuclear explosions, chemical weapon attacks, biological warfare, city-killing bombs, videos of human armies destroying everything in their path, leaving nothing but ash and radiation behind. This is how we fight wars, Commodore. Not for territory or resources or political advantage. We fight until one side is completely destroyed. We call it total war, and we've been perfecting it for thousands of years. Vextar stared in horror at the images. These were recordings of humans fighting other humans. They had done this to themselves repeatedly throughout their history. "You're insane," he whispered. "No," Chen replied calmly. "We're thorough. Your Imperial fleet came here expecting a primitive species that would follow galactic conventions of warfare. Instead, you found a species that has survived multiple self-inflicted near extinctions and learned to weaponize everything, including our own planet." The display changed again, showing real-time footage of Earth's surface. In dozens of locations, massive silos were opening. But these weren't missile silos. They were launching platforms for something much worse. "Mars was our first demonstration," Chen explained. "We showed you that humans are willing to destroy our own colonies to kill our enemies. Now we'll show you what we're willing to do to our own planet." The launches began simultaneously from every continent. But these weren't traditional rockets. They were fusion-powered projectiles, each one carrying enough destructive force to sterilize a continent. And they were all aimed at Earth's own moon. "Why are you destroying your own satellite?" Vextar asked, horrified. "Because we've turned Luna into a weapon. We've spent the last 48 hours mining its core with fusion charges. When our missiles hit, the moon will fragment in a controlled explosion. Each piece will be accelerated toward your ship with enough force to crack a planet." Vexitar watched his sensors as the human missiles struck their own moon. Luna began to glow, then crack, then shatter in the most terrifying display of deliberate destruction he had ever witnessed. "You're destroying your own system." "Yes," Chen replied without emotion. "That's what humans do when we fight. We don't preserve anything. We don't hold back resources for rebuilding. We commit everything to destroying the enemy, even if it means destroying ourselves in the process." The fragments of Luna were beginning to accelerate, each piece guided by small thruster packages that had been installed during the mining operation. Billions of tons of rock and metal were converging on the Sovereign's Pride's position. "But you'll die too," Vextar protested. "Maybe," Chen admitted. "But you'll die first, and then your empire will know what happens when you threaten humanity. They'll know that we don't fight wars, we fight apocalypses." New alarms sounded on the Imperial ship as the first lunar fragments entered weapons range. Each piece hit with the force of a tactical nuclear weapon. The Sovereign's Pride's remaining hull plating began to buckle and tear. "Commodore?" Tactical Officer Raylar called desperately. "We have to retreat. The ship can't survive this bombardment." "Agreed," Vextar said, but then paused. "Admiral Chen, if we withdraw, will you cease your attack?" Chen's expression didn't change. "This isn't an attack, Commodore. This is Annihilation. We've already launched our second wave. The main display showed Earth's surface again. More silos were opening, revealing weapons that defied Imperial understanding. Some appeared to be massive particle accelerators. Others looked like directed fusion reactors. All of them were aimed at the Imperial ship's predicted escape routes. "We've calculated every possible path you might take to leave our system," Chen explained. "We've placed kinetic weapons, fusion mines, and relativistic kill vehicles along each route. You can try to run, but you'll die in the attempt. This is madness. Your own planet will be uninhabitable. For a while, yes. But humans are very good at surviving in hostile environments. We've lived through ice ages, volcanic winters, and nuclear fallout. We'll adapt. We always adapt." Vextar realized with growing horror that the humans were telling the truth. They had turned their entire solar system into a weapon designed to kill anything that threatened them, including themselves if necessary. "What do you want?" he asked. "Finally." "Nothing," Chen replied. "We want you to die. We want every ship in your fleet to be destroyed so completely that no trace remains. We want your empire to find the wreckage of your task force and understand that humanity cannot be conquered, only annihilated. And if they try to annihilate us, they'll learn what we learned fighting each other for thousands of years. Sometimes, everyone dies." The lunar bombardment intensified. The Sovereign's pride was coming apart under impacts that registered like small stars exploding against its hull. Emergency lighting flickered as power systems failed. "Commodore, Navigation Officer." Krellin reported, "I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout their system. Whatever they're preparing to do next, it's going to be bigger than anything we've seen." Chen smiled for the first time during the conversation, but it was the smile of a predator showing its teeth. "We've been studying your ship's design, Commodore. Your shields, your armor, your propulsion systems. We've learned a lot in the past few days, enough to build something specifically designed to kill Imperial warships." On Earth's surface, a new weapon was emerging from the depths. It looked like a massive fusion reactor, but built in the shape of a cannon. The energy requirements were staggering, enough to power a continent for years, all focused into a single directed beam. "This is our final demonstration, Commodore. We call it the Annihilator. It's designed to do one thing, completely destroy anything it targets. We built it in 72 hours using resources we'd been saving for our own space exploration program." The Sovereign's pride died in a column of fusion fire that could be seen from Jupiter. Commodore Vextar had exactly 3 seconds to activate the ship's emergency beacon before the human weapon erased his flagship from existence. The beacon launched itself toward Imperial space, carrying the sensor recordings of humanity's demonstration of total warfare. 3 weeks later, Grand Admiral Thekmor stood in the Imperial War Council chamber on Zalos Prime, watching those recordings, with growing disbelief. Around the curved table, the Empire's greatest military minds sat in stunned silence as the holographic display showed Mars exploding, Luna being weaponized, and the Sovereign's pride being annihilated. "Play the final transmission again," Thekmor commanded. Admiral Chen Wei's image appeared once more, her words echoing in the chamber. "We don't negotiate with invaders. We annihilate them." "How is this possible?" War Counselor Melvon asked. "Our intelligence reports showed them to be a primitive species. Chemical rockets, basic energy weapons, no FTL capability." "The reports were accurate," Military Intelligence Director Zixoth replied grimly. 3 months ago, they were exactly as described, but something changed when we made contact. They evolved. "Species don't evolve in 3 months," Melvan objected. "Their technology did. Our analysis of the beacon data shows weapon systems that shouldn't exist. They somehow developed relativistic kinetic weapons, controlled planetary destruction, and directed fusion artillery in less than 100 days. Grand Admiral Thekmor studied the tactical analyses that covered his desk. Each report reached the same impossible conclusion. Humanity had created weapons specifically designed to kill Imperial ships, using technology they had invented after first contact. "They learned from watching us," he said quietly. "They studied our ships, our shields, our weapons. Then they built counters for everything we had." "Sir," Intelligence Director Zixoth interrupted, "we have new information. 3 more Imperial survey ships have gone missing in that sector of space." "Missing?" The ships were investigating the Sol system from long range. "All stopped transmitting simultaneously. Rescue vessels found debris fields, but—" Zixoth paused. "The debris had been moving at significant fractions of light speed when it was recovered. Something accelerated the wreckage to those velocities after the ships were destroyed." A cold silence fell over the War Council. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't content to defend their system. They were actively hunting Imperial ships. How far from their system were these ships destroyed? Thekmor asked. 15 light years, 20, 27. Impossible. They don't have FTL technology. "Sir, we may need to revise our assumptions about human capabilities." The proof came 2 days later when an Imperial merchant vessel, the Prophet's Dream, was attacked near the Vega system, 30 light years from Earth. The attack was recorded by the ship's sensors before it was destroyed. Grand Admiral Thekmor watched the recording with his senior staff. A small, sleek vessel had appeared without warning, moving at impossible speeds. It hadn't bothered with conventional weapons. Instead, it had simply rammed the Imperial ship at relativistic velocity, converting both vessels into an expanding cloud of plasma. "Analysis!" Thekmor demanded. "The attacking ship was definitely human in origin," Chief Analyst Kolmar reported. "But it was accelerating at over 3,000 Gs, which should have turned any organic crew into paste. Either they developed inertial compensation technology or what? Or it was unmanned, a drone ship designed for one purpose, ramming Imperial vessels at maximum velocity. You're suggesting they built suicide drones capable of faster than light travel and sent them to hunt our ships?" "Sir, that appears to be exactly what they did." More reports flooded in over the following weeks. Human ships were appearing throughout Imperial space, not to explore or colonize, but to destroy. They moved in small groups, struck with overwhelming force, and vanished before Imperial reinforcements could arrive. But the most terrifying discovery came when an Imperial battlecruiser, the Eternal Victory, managed to capture one of the human vessels intact. The boarding party's report sent shockwaves through the Imperial military. "The ship was empty, Grand Admiral," Captain Dexron reported via quantum communication. "No crew, no life support systems, no supplies. The entire vessel was essentially a guided missile with an FTL drive." "What was its payload?" "Antimatter." "Sir, enough to sterilize a planet. The humans had built a faster-than-light delivery system for planet-killing weapons." Thekmor felt his 4 stomachs clench. "How many of these ships are there?" "Unknown, but sensors detected at least 50 similar vessels before they retreated." "Sir, if they have that many antimatter warheads—" The captain didn't need to finish. 50 planet-killer weapons could devastate the core Imperial worlds. The humans had gone from primitive spaceflight to threatening the Empire's existence in less than 6 months. "Sir," Intelligence Director Zixoth entered the briefing with an urgent data pad. "We've intercepted human communications. They're broadcasting their military history to our border worlds." "Explain." "They're sending detailed recordings of their own wars, nuclear conflicts, chemical weapons, biological warfare, genocide campaigns. They want our citizens to see what humans do to each other when they fight." Thekmor accessed the intercepted transmissions. The images were horrifying beyond anything in Imperial experience. Entire cities reduced to radioactive ash, populations eliminated by engineered plagues, soldiers using weapons that caused lingering, agonizing death. But the most disturbing part was the commentary that accompanied each recording. This is what we did to ourselves. Imagine what we will do to you. The psychological warfare was working. Reports came in from across the empire of military units refusing deployment to human-contested space. Some ships' crews were deserting rather than face humanity's annihilation doctrine. Entire star systems were requesting emergency evacuation, convinced that humans would arrive with planet-killing weapons. "Sir," Captain Dexron's voice crackled over the communicator, "we have a new problem. The human ship we captured, it's not just a weapon, it's also a spy." "What do you mean?" "The vessel has been scanning our ship continuously since we brought it aboard. It's mapping our technology, recording our communications, analyzing our defensive systems. Sir, I think capturing it was part of their plan." Before Thekmor could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the Imperial Command Center. Long-range sensors were detecting new contacts approaching the Zelos system, the Empire's capital. "Report!" Thekmor barked. "Multiple human vessels approaching at high velocity," sensor operator Quintel announced. "Estimate arrival in 6 hours. "How many?" "Unknown, sir. They're using some kind of stealth technology. We can only detect them intermittently." Thekmor made the most difficult decision of his career. Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel from Zelos Prime. Prepare the planetary defense grid for full activation. "Sir, are you sure? The humans might just be trying to intimidate us." "Look at their history," Thekmor replied grimly. "Humans don't make empty threats. They make promises of annihilation." As evacuation transports began launching from the Imperial capital, humanity's message was broadcast on all frequencies. "Citizens of the Zilithian Empire, your leaders made the mistake of threatening our world. Now you will learn what happens when humans fight for survival. We do not seek conquest. We do not want your territory or your resources. We want the complete and utter destruction of everything that threatens us. Your choice is simple. Abandon this system or share its fate when we demonstrate what total war means to humanity." The message was accompanied by real-time footage from Earth's surface. Despite the destruction of Luna and the terraforming of Mars, human industrial centers were operating at maximum capacity. Massive factories were producing weapons at a rate that seemed impossible. Shipyards were launching new vessels every few hours. The entire planet had become a war machine dedicated to a single purpose: the annihilation of anything that threatened humanity. Grand Admiral Thekmor stood at the observation deck of the Imperial Command Station, watching evacuation ships fleeing his homeworld. In his 300 years of military service, he had never imagined that the mighty Zilithian Empire would be reduced to running from a single primitive species. But as he watched the human fleet approach, sleek, deadly vessels that moved like schools of predatory fish, he realized that humanity was no longer primitive. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that treated warfare as a form of art, and their canvas was destruction on a galactic scale. The humans weren't coming to conquer the Imperial capital. They were coming to erase it from existence, and everyone in the system knew that no force in the galaxy could stop them. The Battle of Zelos Prime lasted exactly 43 minutes. Grand Admiral Thekmor watched from the command bridge of the Imperial Majesty as humanity's fleet emerged from FTL space. 200 ships, each one sleek and deadly, moving in perfect formation, like a school of metallic predators. "All defensive stations, engage targets," he commanded, though he knew it was futile. The Imperial defense grid was the most powerful in galactic history. Orbital weapons platforms, energy shields, and automated defense drones created a protective web around the Empire's capital world. It had never been breached in 5,000 years of Imperial dominance. The humans broke through it in less than 4 minutes. They didn't use conventional tactics. Instead, they treated the entire defensive system like a puzzle to be solved through overwhelming violence. Kamikaze drones, each one carrying antimatter warheads, simply rammed through the energy shields. Ships accelerated to near-light speed crashed into weapons platforms, converting them to expanding clouds of plasma. Human vessels didn't try to avoid destruction. They embraced it as a tool of warfare. "Sir, they're not trying to preserve their ships," Tactical Officer Raymar reported in disbelief. "They're using their own vessels as weapons." Thekmor watched, in horror as human ship after human ship destroyed itself to eliminate Imperial defenses. Each suicide attack was calculated, precise, and absolutely effective. The humans had learned to weaponize everything, including their own deaths. But the real terror began when the surviving human ships reached Zelos Prime itself. They didn't bombard the planet. They didn't demand surrender. Instead, they began systematically disassembling the world's infrastructure with weapons that defied Imperial understanding. "Report!" Thekmor demanded as sensors showed impossible readings. "Sir, they're using some kind of matter conversion beam. It's turning solid materials into energy at the molecular level. The capital city it's just disappearing." On the main screen, Thekmor watched as buildings, vehicles, and entire city blocks simply vanished, converted to pure energy that the human ships somehow contained and redirected. They were erasing his homeworld piece by piece, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "All ships, target the human vessels," he ordered desperately. "Sir, we can't get target locks. They're moving too fast, and their stealth systems—" The response was cut off as the Imperial Majesty shuddered under multiple impacts. Human fighters, no larger than escape pods, were swarming the massive Imperial dreadnought. Each one carried fusion charges that burned through the ship's armor like it was paper. "Damage report. Hull breaches on all decks. Engine room offline. We're losing life support on—" Another explosion rocked the ship as human boarding pods attached to the hull. But these weren't conventional assault craft. They were shaped charges designed to burn through the ship's armor and detonate inside, creating maximum destruction with minimal resources. Thekmor realized with growing horror that the humans weren't trying to capture his ship. They were trying to annihilate it completely, along with everyone aboard. "Sir!" Communication Officer Veltran called from his station. "We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander." "Put it through." A human appeared on the main screen. She was young by human standards, with short dark hair and cold eyes that showed no mercy. Her uniform was simple, functional, designed for war rather than ceremony. "Grand Admiral Thekmor," she said without preamble. "I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Human Annihilation Fleet. You are witnessing the end of your empire's expansion into human space." "Admiral Chen, this attack is unnecessary. We can negotiate—" "No!" Chen's interruption was absolute. "Your empire declared war on humanity when you entered our system and demanded our surrender. We don't negotiate with invaders. We annihilate them." The display behind Chen showed tactical readouts that made Thekmor's blood freeze. The human fleet wasn't just attacking Zelos Prime. They had simultaneously struck 12 other Imperial core worlds, each assault timed to prevent any coordinated response. "You're attacking civilian populations," Thekmor protested. "We're demonstrating total war," Chen replied coldly. "Every Imperial citizen is a potential threat to humanity's survival. Every Imperial world is a base for future attacks on our space. Therefore, every Imperial citizen and every Imperial world must be eliminated." "That's genocide." "Yes." Chen's expression didn't change. "Just like your empire intended for us. The difference is that we're better at it." New explosions rocked the Imperial Majesty as more human weapons found their mark. The ship was coming apart under sustained assault, its crew evacuating in escape pods that were immediately targeted and destroyed by human fighters. "Sir," Raymar called desperately, "the planet's surface temperature is rising rapidly. They're doing something to the core." On the tactical display, Zelos Prime was beginning to glow from within. The humans had somehow accessed the planet's molten core and were using it as a weapon, turning the entire world into a massive fusion reactor. They're going to crack the planet, Thekmore whispered. Correct, Chen confirmed, apparently monitoring his communications. We've placed fusion charges at key geological stress points. When they detonate, your capital world will fragment like an overripe fruit. The debris field will sterilize everything within 10 light years. You'll destroy yourselves too. No. Our ships are designed to survive the blast. Your ships are not. In approximately 7 minutes, this entire system will become uninhabitable for the next 1,000 years. Any Imperial vessels that remain will be vaporized along with your homeworld. Thekmore looked around his dying command bridge. Most of his crew was already dead. The ship's systems were failing one by one. Through the viewports, he could see other Imperial vessels being systematically destroyed by human forces that seemed to anticipate every tactical move. What do you want? He asked finally. Nothing from you, Chen replied. You're going to die, along with your ship and your world. But your empire will receive a message from the few survivors we allow to escape. They will learn that humanity cannot be conquered, cannot be negotiated with, and cannot be stopped once we commit to total. Va. You're monsters. We're survivors. For thousands of years, we fought wars of annihilation against ourselves. We perfected the art of total destruction through necessity. Now we've turned those skills against an external enemy. Your empire made the mistake of threatening our existence. Now we're demonstrating why that was a fatal error. The countdown began on Chen's display. 6 minutes until planetary destruction. 5 minutes. 4. Sir, Communication Officer Veltran called weakly. Emergency beacon is ready to launch. Thekmore nodded. The beacon would carry the sensor recordings back to Imperial space, warning them of humanity's capabilities. Maybe other Imperial worlds could prepare defenses, or evacuate, or negotiate some kind of peace. But as he watched Chen's cold expression on the screen, he doubted any of those options would matter. Humanity had demonstrated a capacity for warfare that exceeded anything in galactic history. They didn't fight to win territory or resources. They fought to completely eliminate threats to their existence, and they were very, very good at it. Launch the beacon, he ordered. 3 minutes until detonation. 2 minutes. Grand Admiral, Chen said finally, when your empire receives the recordings from this battle, tell them something from humanity. Tell them we didn't want this war. But since you started it, we'll finish it. Every Imperial world that threatens human space will share Zelos Prime's fate. Every Imperial fleet that enters our territory will be annihilated. Every Imperial citizen who supports expansion into human space becomes a target for elimination. 1 minute. This is what total war means to humanity, Grand Admiral. We don't stop until the enemy is completely destroyed. We don't negotiate. We don't show mercy. And we never, ever give up. Your empire wanted to see human warfare. Now you have. 30 seconds. The beacon launched just as Zelos Prime began to crack apart. The planet's core erupted in a column of fusion fire that could be seen from neighboring star systems. The debris field expanded outward at a significant fraction of light speed, sterilizing everything in its path. The Imperial Majesty was vaporized instantly, along with the rest of the Imperial fleet. The human ships, protected by shields that seemed to absorb the planetary explosion's energy, disappeared into FTL space as quickly as they had arrived. 3 weeks later, the beacon reached Imperial space and delivered its message to the surviving leadership of the Zilithian Empire. The recordings showed the complete annihilation of their capital world and the systematic destruction of 12 other Imperial systems. But the most terrifying part of the message was the final transmission from Fleet Admiral Chen. This is only the beginning. Every day your empire continues to exist, we will eliminate one Imperial world. We will not stop until the threat to humanity is completely removed. You have exactly one option for survival: total withdrawal from all space within 50 light years of any human colony. cessation of all military activities, and payment of reparations for the resources we expended in defending ourselves. You have 72 hours to respond. After that, we begin eliminating.